we're going to take a look at a couple more endocrine glands here. In reality, they're both kind of in the same spot. The thyroid gland would be over your larynx, and we're going to see is the parathyroid. It's actually 4 little spots that are on the back of that. Again, we'll take a look at both of these and then go to the slides and take a look at both of them there. So the thyroid, as you can see, is just below the larynx. It is in kind of butterfly-shaped organ with a connection across the center, has a couple lobes and an isthmus in the center. When you look at it, it's pretty distinct in terms of what you're looking at here. This might look like there's a duct and it's secreting stuff into a duct, but in reality it isn't. These are thyroid follicles, so you get the little circle like this. The fluid on the inside holds the precursors for making these particular hormones. So when the thyroid gland is stimulated to make these hormones, it's going to take some of that fluid in, convert it to the thyroid hormones. We're going to see these are actually T3 and T4 is kind of what they're shortened to. So it stands for thyroxine and triiodothyronine. The stuff will get taken into these cells and converted to those particular hormones and sent into the bloodstream. So in terms of looking at this, you can definitely see the thyroid follicles here. So round follicles, like I said, lining this fluid filled with what's called colloid. These cells, like I said, are going to make that T3 and T4 and secrete them into the bloodstream. What we're going to see is this is all controlled, like we were saying before, by the hypothalamus. It releases the thyroid releasing hormone, which can cause the pituitary to make thyroid stimulating hormone, which will act on the thyroid gland to release T3 and T4. What these are doing in a simple sense, T3 and T4 are going to, what they really do is they are going to stimulate the body to basically have your idle go a little bit faster. So in terms of what's happening here, these follicular cells break down that stuff that's in the colloid. They take up iodine from the blood, and they are going to convert that thyroglobin into T3 and T4. So, like I was saying before, when TSH is released, these follicular cells are going to eat a little bit of this colloid and then convert it to T3 and T4 and release it into the bloodstream. What this is doing really just increases metabolism. I always kind of say it increases your idle. If you think about like an idle on a car, this is going to make our metabolism run a little bit faster. So increases growth, increases metabolism, increases calorie burn. Like it says there, more mitochondrial synthesis, increase absorption of carbohydrates, regulates more fats and everything else like that. In a simple sense, increases our base metabolic rate, which means increased body temperature, increased heart rate. And again, this all sounds great, and the higher the better seems like it would be the case, but that is not the case. Too much thyroid hormone isn't going to be good. Too little is not going to be good. In between these follicular cells are these what are called C cells or parafollicular cells. They make another hormone that is actually involved in blood calcium levels called Calcitonin. Actually lowers blood calcium levels. This is not affected by the pituitary. This is separate of the pituitary, but it's a third endocrine hormone that the thyroid makes. Again, this is more based on what is the metabolites level in the blood. So if calcium is high, more calcitonin will be released. And again, it acts on some of those blood cells that we talked about before. So it would stop osteoclasts from breaking down bone. It would stop osteoclasts from breaking down bone, would stimulate osteoblasts to lay down bone. And you can kind of see these are a light staining cell in that site, in the spaces between these follicular cells. The other gland, that I want to look at is going to be the parathyroid gland. This is also involved in blood calcium levels that we talked about. So the parathyroid is actually these 4 little spots on the back of the thyroid that histology-wise are completely distinct. Much more cellular. You don't see that follicular structure on these ones. Main thing here is something that's going to raise blood calcium levels, and they got real fancy on the name and named it after the gland. So parathyroid glands make parathyroid hormone. This is going to stimulate the body to release more calcium into the bloodstream. Again, not under the pituitary's control. This is again by the metabolite level in the bloodstream. We have 2 main cell types in here. We have the chief cells that make this, and then another cell type called an oxyphil cell that we don't know exactly what it does. So you can see the parathyroid, lower kind of magnification here. You can see zoomed in, much more cellular, non-follicular structure there. Those are the chief cells. Sometimes we get these ones with the cytoplasm that are a little bit more pink in the cytoplasm. Those are those oxyphil cells. We'll have to take a look on the digital slide, see if they're good. Generally, our slide box slides did not have good oxyphil cells, so I just kind of usually kept you to parathyroid gland identification. But if we have slides that you can differentiate these two, I'll definitely expect you to do that. So next one we'll look at will be the adrenal gland and the adrenals and the pancreas. So we'll do those next time. Here real quick is look at the thyroid gland first. You can see overall in the view of this one, you can see these follicular structures, what's going on there. So if we zoom in a little bit, again, you can see that follicular fluid in the center of each of these little units here. These would be the follicular cells surrounding that. If we zoom in a little bit more on some of these, probably what we'd be looking at for a C cell would be one of these later staining ones right here. The rest of these would be all parafollicular cells that are surrounding this. The other slide to look at was the parathyroid gland. Again, if we zoom out a little bit, you can see overall a little bit more cellular. There's a little bit of adipose mixed into this one. Again, you can see not having those follicular structures in there. If we zoom in on this a little bit more, you can kind of see right here these different cells. So your chief cells would be most of these ones right here. You can see these ones that have a little bit more granular cytoplasm, or over here as well. Those would be your oxyphil cells. Again, not well-known function on them. You can see another area of oxyphil cells right there. The rest of these, though, those chief cells that are making that parathyroid hormone.